Nyako Powers. He's a private legal practitioner and certainly no stranger to our Sunrise platform. Austin, hello, good morning.
Good morning, Helen. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Oh, fantastic, by you.
Always good to hear your voice. Now, we're still talking about the office of the special prosecutor, still following the twists and turns and also weighing in on some of the latest updates. And I know that you've been following the conversation very keenly as it is evolving. We want to pick your thoughts this morning on where things stand at the moment. I'm sure you've also monitored the conversations in and out of Parliament, and a directive or a request or an order or a sanction, as has been described, depending on who you ask, coming from the president for his chief whip and majority leader in Parliament to stand down as far as putting forth a private member's bill to scrap the office of the special prosecutor is concerned. Firstly, how do you assess these conversations ongoing in Parliament and also the response coming from the president?
Helen, let me say good morning to your listeners and those who are watching from social media, particularly YouTube. I think this is much ado about nothing. In fact, let me be blunt with you. The private member bill that the majority leader and the chief whip intended to forward to Parliament it's much ado about nothing. It is just a way to demonstrate that they are in Parliament and they can do whatever they want. But the thing is that your president, the leader of your party, says it is too early in the day to be talking about the scrapping of the OSP. So, in fact, what motivated them to go ahead to draft a private member bill seeking to repeal the OSP Act? And I think we need to situate the conversation. These are people who may be affected by the work of the OSP. I have said it time to that number that the OSP is an important and integral part of our anti-corruption fight. If we really want to fight this, want to fight corruption and eliminate or eradicate corruption from our society, we need the OSP to fight it. And the thing is that the OSP could be going after members of this government, and all the attempts to derail the work of the OSP and attempts to repeal the OSP Act, these are efforts to make sure that when it gets to their turn, the OSP will not bite them, and there won't be any OSP. Because I monitor Parliament, and there were claims that when Mohammed's first term, there was no OSP, but they were able to eradicate corruption or minimize corruption. I think it is not factual. It is not factual because there were so many scandals in Mohammed's first term that if we had the OSP, I'm sure by now we would have eradicated or rooted or by now even instill some level of discipline in the politicians. I mean, this is a war being waged by the politicians who may be affected by the work of the OSP. I have said that Ghanaians need to rise up and insist that the OSP needs to be allowed to function. If you have issues with the work of the OSP, fine. That's why I've always been saying that the best solution in tackling what we describe as the deficiencies of the OSP is to reform. You don't need to repeal. Why do you want to repeal the OSP so that you claw back the OSP powers to the Attorney General or Yoko or let me say NIB? These are institutions that have been there for decades, and we know what they have done, and we know what they are incapable of doing.
Right.
We need the OSP. And I have maintained that the OSP is not as independent as we think. And I insist that the OSP is exercising a function of the Attorney General, which function the Attorney General can, at a point in time, say, this investigation, I'm calling the docket so that I will go through. When people make the comment that the OSP is independent, OSP can do whatever he or she wants, that in the future we'll have a she as a special prosecutor, which I'm hoping for. The person is not absolutely independent. The person is subject to the prosecutorial powers of the Attorney General. So if they have issues with the OSP's handling of any matter, then my solution is simple. Record the docket. Tell the OSP to give the docket to you, because it is your powers under Article 88 of the Constitution, and that powers cannot be derogated, or that powers cannot be taken away from you, actually without amending the 1992 Constitution. So, this battle being waged by the politicians, in fact, loudly by the majority, who surpass majority, who have, super majority in the House, are now trying to railroad their way so that they can get the OSP Act repealed. But
right.
We need to let them know that this thing will not allow them today, will not allow them tomorrow. When they attempt, we will come after them. The people of Ghana will come after them, because we cannot take the people for granted. For how long are we going to sit down and cry about corruption, derailing developmental efforts, and even undermining the well-being of Ghanaians? For how long are we going to cry when we have institutions? We just need to empower them. Empower them, give them the leeway, let them work. If there are issues, we address them, we reform, but not to repeal early. So this is my submission. It is an attempt by the politician to cover themselves when it is their turn. But
a few things jump out at me. When you say the majority is calling for the scrapping, and at least from where I sit, it has seemed like a majority and a minority collaboration in calling for the scrapping. So in some quarters of the majority caucus, at least on the floor of Parliament, that's the consensus, and also in the minority. Are you saying that you're hearing these calls more loudly coming from the majority? Because interestingly, the persons who are most under the spotlight at this time are from the previous administration. Case in point, Ken Ofori-Atta. Would it not be in the majority's better interest for the OSP to continue to do what it is that the office is doing? And is it not the case that maybe from the optics, it would appear that the minority are calling for the scrapping because it is their members or their affiliates who are under that fire or under that spotlight at this point? If you see where I'm coming from.
Is it not curious? I understand your knowledge. It's not curious because what you are saying and the fact, it is rather the some members of the minority who are currently facing trials under the authority of the OSP.
That's right.
If anything at all, there should be their call should be louder than the majority. But now the majority appears, and in fact, the most significant development. The most significant development was the preparation of or the drafting of the private members bill by the majority leader and the chief whip. It's not surprising. It is coming from people who have super majority and people whose members are not even before whose members are not even before the court. But they are doing the bidding of the minority. But I'm saying that they are doing that to cover themselves, because the OSP has shown that he will come after you irrespective of whether your party is in government or not.
But Austin, is that not flawed if the same special prosecutor said that at the time, for instance, that former President Akufo-Addo was in power, he felt powerless to stop Ken Ofori-Atta? Would that same scenario not play out, that it would have to take, another party to come in for him to gather that momentum or get the courage, it would appear, to actually pursue,
Ellen, in fact,
those that are at fault?
I'm not even cutting you. I think that we have been misinformed for so many years, and there are some colleague lawyers who are part of this misinformation. In fact, deliberate misinformation. Was the OSP informed that Ken was traveling to US for medical attention or medical help? Was the OSP informed? Ken informed the then yet to go or the then outgoing chief of staff. Ken informed the then outgoing chief of staff. I understand on the 6th of January. 6th of January, when the person informed, was the OSP put on notice? So how then do we put the blame? And I'm saying that, Ellen, it is our work. You're a journalist.
Yes.
And I'm a lawyer. It's our work to inform the public.
That's right.
This has been a deliberate lie hatched by people to accuse the OSP of being behind the escape of Ken Ofori-Atta. And this thing, we must be able to, peer beyond what Ghanaians see. Those who were peddling this falsehood, they had an agenda. How do you then arrive at the conclusion that the OSP was... Well, I'm telling you, if the OSP had been informed that Ken was traveling, the OSP would have done something about it. And in any case, you can't arrest anybody when you are still investigating. When you feel that you have not unraveled the facts, you don't have the full facts, by which reason you can arrest the person. Why do you go and arrest the person? So, Helen, let's be able to educate your listeners,
right?
Your discerning listeners, that this is a lie that has been perpetuated and peddled by people, that the OSP allowed Kenokurata to escape. Per the fact, on the 6th of January, when the NPP knew they had lost and they were about to hand over on just a day, or let me say less than 24 hours away, Ken wrote that he was going on a medical trip. Then he sent the letter to the then chief of staff, outgoing chief of staff.
That's right.
How then do we say that he notified the OSP and the OSP should have known? I think sometimes it is our work to let Ghanaians know the reality. Sometimes some of these things, they are too absurd and too concocted for a discerning mind to absorb or understand. So, I think that the simple answer is that the NDC has an agenda. And I'm happy that the president has to rein in on, has to come in and tell his majority leader, the chief, to withdraw the party members. I think that was the best decision.
Right.
The thing is that you cannot eat your cake and have it. The OSP is functioning. Let's allow the OSP to be. If we have issues, in fact, in any case, Kisei Japan has just barely 3 years away to run over. Why can't they wait? NDC, you have 4 years. Let's say after this year, you have 3 more years. So I'm sure by the end of OSP tonight, you will still be in government. You have the opportunity to choose whoever you want. So, why the rush? Ellen,
why the rush?
Help me ask the majority leader and the chief whip, why the rush?
Now, we talk about these conspiracy theories that abound. And certainly, I've heard all manner of accusations pointed towards the personality of the special prosecutor. And I think the last time that you were in studio, we talked about this. I'll ask again if you think that the special prosecutor is a victim of his own, shall I say, press conferences and overly whetting the appetite of Ghanaians when it came to even, for example, Kenokurata's issues.
Ellen, I think I have said it. I've said 2 things earlier in the past, that the OSP, I expected the OSP to be a person, an independent-minded person, and not a person who would be swept off the street by politics or the political wave. But he appears, and I've said that he appears he's now taking on the attitude of the Attorney General. Attorney General likes press conference. That's his thought in truth. So it appears the OSP is now feeding into that mindset. And I have said that it is not good because, the thing is that when you tell Ghanaians, you can build a beautiful story before Ghanaians, but when you go to court, the story may be completely different. If you've monitored the case of the Signal Bureau, the National Signal Bureau case, you realize that the case has taken a different turn altogether. There's a piece of the process which is before the Supreme Court. In fact, you realize that it's not as easy as holding a press conference and telling them that I have enough evidence to grant conviction.
That's right.
I have said that, Ellen, the OSP, your work, even though you are not independent, your work is supposed to be independent-minded. Be independent-minded and approach your work. Don't let the politician convince you to organize press conferences and be feeding to the public, telling them we have this information about Kenokurata, so we will arrest him. These are matters. In fact, when the OSP promised that they were going to extradite Kenokurata, what has happened? Sometimes, and then I'm telling you, because the OSP is a lawyer, it's a senior lawyer. He knows the process, he knows the extradition process, but it is not as easy as ABC. It's not as easy as being in Leslie to be and learning how to count ABC or recite ABC. He knows. But he was at a point now swept up by political, then he started feeding into the politics of the day and telling Ghanaians these are matters. I have said that the OSP must do his work.
Right.
Leave the politician. You have a communication director. Let him do those public commentaries. You do your work. Let the aura of the special prosecutor, let it reflect on you. Don't let the behavior of the Attorney General, don't close yourself with the behavior of the Attorney General, whereby you organize press conferences and be telling people that you have enough evidence when you know that when you go to court, the other party will also have his or a day in court. So, I think the OSP one is as someone that sharp criticism because of his own failings and some of his own doings. And I think he should learn from it. The politician will be with you today, but tomorrow they will come after you. The NDC were supporting him in the beginning when he organized the many press conferences about Kenoforeta. But today, look at what is happening.
The tides have certainly turned. And I think it's quite interesting, actually, that you highlight this Signals Bureau case, especially juxtaposing it against what you have been saying consistently, that sometimes these press conferences can come back and bite you in the behind. In fact, I thought of you the last time I saw an update on that case, and I thought, I'm sure Austin is feeling very vindicated at this point based on what he had to say. And in fact, I had a very different position because I said, well, the Attorney General is also in that prosecutorial spirit, and he thinks he has an airtight case. But as we see the case unfold, there's certainly some merit, Austin, to what you had to say about restraint and also managing the expectations of the average Ghanaian, because that impatience can also come back to certainly bite. But I'll pause you just for a brief moment. I hope I don't lose you. I know you're very busy this morning. I also want to introduce into the conversation Emmanuel Kutin. He is the Executive Director, African Center for Security and Counter-Terrorism. Emmanuel, happy Friday. Good morning. How are you?
My dearest Helen, happy Friday and good morning. And by God's special grace, I'm good this morning. And also, let me use the opportunity to greet our cherished listeners and my colleague, the counsel on the other line.
Always a pleasure to hear your voice. The conversation about the Office of the Special Prosecutor, it's not dying down anytime soon. I also wanted to pick your thoughts on how you are monitoring the conversations that have been going on in Parliament. You'll know that the majority leader in Parliament, as well as the majority chief whip, had decided to propel a private member's bill seeking to scrap the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Subsequently, we've seen a request, some call it an order, coming from the president for this to be stood down and not to go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Well, Helen, I think their action as best is kind of preposterous if you look at the critical function of the office. I'm a lover of democracy, and I believe that we must build our institutions. So if Kisi Ajabin is the issue here, Kisi Ajabin is just a citizen like any of us who have been given a privileged opportunity to serve us. So if we feel that Kisi Ajabin is not walking the talk, the best thing is to activate the necessary legal remedy as stipulated by the act establishing the Office of the Special Prosecutor and remove him and not the institution. I entirely disagree with them, and I condemn in no uncertain terms their behavior. I think it is quite populist because Mama Yaga is a lawyer of good standing, just like the majority chief whip. And I think they know better than some of us. If you look at the Attorney General office at its current shape and form, it's not fit for purpose to prosecute the executives in court because the leader is the politician. So until we can reform the office of the Attorney General and make it independent of the executives, that is the only time we can even begin a conversation whether we should scrap the Office of the Special Prosecutor or not. And these are my foundation. When the NDC came to power, what did they do? They issued null prosecutors and discharged its own members. And as a watcher, I found it difficult to see how the Attorney General is going to prosecute the people before him. Would it be fair for me to say that because these people are from the other side of the bench? And, events kind of cast its shadows. The fight against corruption, we have not been intentional at all. I think we play politics with it and do some cosmetic dressing around it, and it becomes a debate over who has done better than the other between the two political parties. When the president met the Peace Council, he indicated that he's not a fan of prosecuting people. I think that statement was quite unfortunate. As the leader and president of this country, the Constitution is very clear about remedies you apply when someone abuses an office, someone is engaged in any alleged criminality of any form. So if you don't have any appetite for prosecution, but this is what the Ghanaian people want, I think it was below the belt. And some time ago, we appeared before you, and I did indicate that this government will not be able to prosecute any of the politically alleged corruption they are talking about. The unfortunate ones will use as scapegoats. And the president's statement clearly confirms that. And I want the NDC, and for that matter, the president to know that they cannot abuse the goodwill the Ghanaian people are giving them. And they have to be warned that they are abusing the goodwill we have given them. For the president to say that he has not appetite for prosecuting people, but this is what the people want, is too far-fetched, my dearest Ellen, to say the least. And the other thing I found so intriguing is the letter he wrote to the majority leader impressing on them to withdraw the private member bill they put before Parliament for the repeal of the office of the special prosecutor. You see, as a lover of democracy, I believe in separation of powers.
Right.
And what legal backing is the president coming from to put out such a letter?
So you would describe it as an order, not a request, because that has been some of the argument that it's a request, he cannot order, but also that we talk about separation of powers. But when it comes to lawmaking, the executive and Parliament, they come together. Ultimately, when laws are made in the House of Parliament, they end up at the doorstep or on the desk of the president. He has the ultimate sign-off. How then do you divorce these two arms of government when they're actually working together?
I'm not a lawyer, but the Constitution is clear with my layman understanding of the law. They have not transmitted any bill before the president.
That's right.
And the president is writing back to Parliament for them to have a second look at. So in the absence of that, it amounts to what? Interfering in the work of Parliament. It is only in Ghana that when parliamentarians kind of come out with any proposal before the House, we think that is the thinking of that parliamentarian. In a proper functioning democracy, mostly it's your constituents who influence you to take such an action. You understand?
Right. So
John Mahama is not a constituent from Ayaga Mahama's constituency, neither is he a constituent from the Ferma Post constituency. And the letter that went to the Speaker, to the House of Parliament, was on the letterhead of the presidency. That's the authority of the state. That is how that intriguing. Don't forget, people have petitioned against the removal of special prosecutor. Is it not the case?
That's right.
Did the president not refer those petitions to the Chief Justice?
Indeed.
So it means that the president has already stated his position. So the petitions before the Chief Justice will amount to nothing. If the president can write a letter to Parliament impressing on parliamentarians to withdraw bills, why can't the president write to the Chief Justice not to entertain the petition that was brought against the OSP before him? So it means that technically the OSP is not going anywhere. Or is it the case that it is a grand scheme looking at the electoral commissioners? You know, their petitions also as against the electoral commissioner and her deputies. I think two of them also.
Yes.
The president also conveyed those things to the Chief Justice. So, you see, actions like this create the perception that the executives interfere with other arms of government. That is the bottom line. And you know what perception in this country can do. Even, you see the debate about President Mama running a third term. It's a perception. You see that the NDC chairman has been forced to come out with a letter denouncing that.
That's right.
So we have to, in the spirit of democracy, adhere to the limits of our powers, not because I'm the president, I can do anything I want. No. The president himself is not above the law. And when we begin to do things like this, it affects other institutions. And let me place it on record again. If you look at lifestyle audit of politicians today, the NDC politicians who could be so guilty, because they live in opulence life even in under 1 year. And a year ago, these were people we meet and they could not even buy fuel into their vehicles. So if you really want to fight, of course. There are politicians today under 1 year to get in office. They are driving all manners of expensive cars, wearing all manners of expensive costumes and perfumes and jewelry and stuff like that. And a year ago, you couldn't see them doing the same. Some have acquired houses. So you see that the NDC have made nonsense of the aura, that they made every Ghanaian understand that they were coming to prosecute alleged politicians whom we all said were corrupt. Under 1 year, what have they done? NDC has been in power almost a year now. 7th December, January will be 1 year. Is that not the case? So you see that we are gradually losing the fight on corruption. And once we weaponize corruption in the lens of politics, Ghanaians will lose faith in our democracy. And you see what is happening in the region. Those conditions stay here in Ghana. So we shouldn't trickle ourselves and think that our democracy have come of age and nothing can happen. Benin went into constitutional rule in 1991, a year before we did. Just a few days ago, you heard what happened in Benin.
Indeed.
So if the politicians don't get their act right and they want to abuse their offices, Ghanaians will not be kind to any of the political divide. And I say this to authority, I want to place on record that the office of the special prosecutor should be maintained because it has a critical role in our fight against corruption, especially the executives. And people often overlook some of the successes the OSP have choked over the period. On what basis was the SML contract cancelled, my dear Helen? Is it not value addition experiment or investigations that the special prosecutor did that all these things came? Are they not before the court? Is it not yesterday they granted them bail? Have you forgotten the La Bianca thing? They were made to pay money, but they didn't prosecute them. And that's one other layer of our problem. You remember the Ajapa deal. It was through the same office of the special prosecutor that processes were halted. The challenge is that we don't prosecute people who are involved in these crimes or alleged crimes. So it's not deterrent. So every now and then people are inclined to do the same. Like the case of the former finance minister, we are blaming the OSP to have allowed him to escape. Evidence who authorized the travel of Kenoforata, is that not it?
Indeed.
Is the person not in this country? Why are they not summoning the person to see the reasoning behind why those authorization was done? Find out from the OSP, the security agencies he called for help and they didn't, man him. They are still in this country, and we pay them with our taxpayers' money. When we allow some of these things to go unpunished, people have more appetite to do more in the future. And some of us are not surprised that it's the NDC that is calling for the abolition of the OSP, because they know what they are doing in government. And they know that when they are leaving government, they will be measured by the same, that's why they are calling for the scrapping of the office of the special prosecutor. Any peace-loving Democrat must resist that.
All right, Emmanuel, let me just hold you for just a moment, and I'll see if I still have Austin on the line. Pick his final thoughts, and then we can wrap up on the conversation. Austin, are you still with us?
Yeah, Helen.
Yes.
So, Helen, quick one.
Yes.
I think my friend made some comments regarding the letter sent to Parliament by the President.
Yes, in fact, that's exactly what I wanted to pick your thoughts on, because we had that conversation this morning during the news review. We're talking separation of powers, and really, is that realistic given that the executive and Parliament come together to make the laws? Parliament will draft the laws, do the readings, but ultimately it's the President that signs off on it. Are we having a realistic conversation here?
And I think sometimes we tend to pick a concept and we run away with it. We don't interrogate it properly. In fact, separation of powers, what we have is not total separation of powers. So, in fact, when we talk of total separation of powers, it means that the personnel, the function, and the institution must be different. The three things, the three factors, personnel, function, and institution must be different. But what we have, we don't have. So what we have separate institutions and we have separate functions. But the personnel, they intermarry. I think you notice that when you read the Constitution, it provides that some members of Parliament should be appointed as ministers. So why does the Constitution make room for the appointment of, in fact, majority of the members of Parliament have to be appointed as ministers of state? It means that they are being appointed as members of the executive. So we have a partial separation of power. So sometimes when people tend to throw some of these concepts around, we need to be careful. The Constitution itself has given way to this type of marriage. So it is allowed. And I mean, what is the issue about? What is the fact? In fact, what is the fact about? But don't forget that when Parliament makes a law, it is the executive that implements it. When Parliament passed the OSP Act, 2017 Act 959, government had to allocate money, resources for the setting of the office. So if Parliament again wants to abolish the OSP, the President has a say. The executive has a say, because already they have allocated huge sums of money. And if you want to repeal the office, you must consult the executive, because they implemented the act which you passed. So why don't you consult them? And they say, and the executive says, hold on. And it is too premature to moot the idea of the abolishment of the OSP. I think this is nothing new. This is nothing extraordinary. That people are, in fact, they are criticizing the president for taking that step. I think it is the best step that we are taking. The Constitution itself does not envisage a situation whereby the president cannot tell Parliament that do this or don't do this. Because the president, don't forget, the majority there is a leader of government business. That is an executive position. What is it doing over there? He is championing the agenda of the government. So why the loud criticism about the letter issued by the president? I think it is the interest of Ghanaians that the president has done that. And anybody, and I have said that, let's be cautious. Sometimes when we take concepts, let's not run with it. Every concept, the concept that you may have read, those concepts have been domesticated in our system. And we have statutory and constitutional, in fact, reforms. So don't pick those Western concepts and believe that those concepts apply stricto sensu in this country. No. We have, in some instances, we have statutory reformations and sometimes constitutional reformations. So we don't have a total total separation of powers, as some people and people. So, I mean, that would be my point. And my position
Right.
in concluding.
Yes.
I want to advise the president to tell his men, if you are not afraid of the OSP doing his work, allow the OSP to function and don't interfere with his work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Austin Bracco Powers is a legal private practitioner giving us his final thoughts, but I'm sure as the days and weeks unfold, we'll be able to pick his perspective some more. Emmanuel Kutin still on the line. Emmanuel, wrapping up on the conversation, and the question that we ultimately ask our listeners to ruminate on is whether or not we should be scrapping, maintaining, or reforming. But you have said that you certainly are not for the scrapping of the office. So you say to maintain, or do you say to reform? And what do these reforms look like if you're for that option?
Well, before I come to that, let me just chip in a few things about what my colleague said on the other side. In fact, it's true that majority leader is the leader of government business, but he's the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs. So the president could have called him in camera and writing the letter. The weight of the letter is on the letterhead he wrote that letter. And it sends the wrong signals. You understand? The perception I'm talking about. Don't forget in Ghana, the penetration rate of the education is not even up to 50%. So many of us are illiterate. We will not understand the nuances. So when it happens like that, we give politicians the opportunity to go to the market shopping with propaganda. And it doesn't help the system. So to cure all these things, the president simply could have invited Ayaga Mama and say, this does not fall in line with what I think Ghanaians want. We wouldn't have been talking about this. Then a letter issued by his own minister in charge of communication. That is so telling. So we must get these differences clear. And the other thing I want my colleague to understand is that if the president can write a letter requesting that a particular bill purporting to repeal an act of parliament, and the same office is the conveying belt, if you look at the structure of our constitution, for the removal of heads of public institutions who misconduct themselves, you see that the system will not be fair. So the bottom line is that let's build our institutions. And your question about the reforms we are talking about.
Yes.
You see, when the act was passed, the OSP, where Ghanaians should have agitated was when Martin Amidu was appointed. Because Martin Amidu was a political player who has fallen off from his party. So you see the then government kind of tricked the people of Ghana into believing that he was the best person to prosecute their opponent. What did Martin Amidu do? He went for this current president. You remember the Airbus scandal.
Indeed.
And when the table turned and he started to focus on appointees in government, that was where he nicked the snack, and then the problem of the OSP started. Now, when Martin resigned, who replaced Martin? Kisi Ajabin. Kisi Ajabin worked in the office of in the law firm of the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo. So, was it proper that somebody who was exposed to this level would be given such a sensitive office of the owner of the chamber this special prosecutor had worked before? So we created these problems for ourselves. There was no way Kisi Ajabin would go for the political appointees of Nana Akufo-Addo. And if you look at the special prosecutor, is the special prosecutor saying that it is only government appointees who are not in power that he can go after? What about those in power? Are we saying that corruption don't occur when those appointees are in power? Then when they come out of power, how do we get to know these levels of alleged corruption? So you see that the system is not set out to really work, but the system has been weaponized to go after perceived political opponents. And that is where the fault line is. So if we really want the office of the special prosecutor to function, let's look at independent-minded people who are not politically tainted or exposed.
Right.
And the act must also be looked at. The fact that it's only lawyers who can become special prosecutors. No. There are people who have investigative acumen, who are not lawyers. And the office of the special prosecutor have the legal wing, the investigative wing, the administrative wing, and even the international relation ring because of their crucial role with international agencies. So I think we have to look at some of these things as a country moving forward, and also look at the office of the Attorney General and reform the Attorney General such that an MP, a 7 political person, does not hold the position of the Attorney General. It should be a good lawyer of standing and who can do or who can prosecute and do justice to all manners of persons without fear or favor. I think as a country, our democracy will only work when we build our institutions. At the moment, what we do is cosmetic. And I will want to see a time where the Attorney General or the Special Prosecutor or the National Security Investigative Wing or the NIB goes after 7 government appointees. Until we do that, I see the whole experiment of our investigative bodies as a weapon for perceived political enemies or rivals.
Emmanuel, thank you so much for your time this morning. Always a pleasure to hear your perspectives on these issues, and hopefully we see you very soon.
Most grateful.
And we were there just speaking with Emmanuel Kutin, Executive Director, African Center for Security and Counter-Terrorism. 20 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 a.m. You're still live here on 3FM Sunrise. On 3FM 92.7, we'll pause for a very, very quick break. When we come back, there's a lot more right here on 3FM Sunrise. Don't go too far.
Hello, Auntie Abena. You won't believe